Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Mind the Gap on cyberexchange.ca. Today, I am joined by Angela Mondou, President and CEO of TechNation. Angela, welcome.
Thank you, Heather. It's great to be here.
So, before we get started, I actually would like for you to, for the benefit of our audience, to tell us what or who is TechNation.
I will. So, for many people out there, we would have been known for about 60 years as the IT Association of Canada. We've been around for a long time, one of the largest industry associations representing technology. We went through a little bit of a rebrand or a big rebrand a couple of years ago because, as you know, Heather, tech now is no longer just a sector, it's part of every sector. So we've rebranded to TechNation. We represent every technology company from large multinationals to scale ups to companies that work across sectors in advanced manufacturing, clean tech, agri-tech, you name it. So pretty diverse organization. And one of the key things that we do is really act as a national catalyst to connect government, academia, business to drive technology adoption in Canada and globally using or leveraging our innovators as well as accelerating technology skills. And just to give you an example of that in the cyberspace, you may recall the mayor of Stratford a couple of years ago talking about the impact of ransomware on his municipality. So we connected government, worked with public safety, worked with municipalities like Stratford and many others in Canada and technology companies to pull together and start solving problems and developing best practices for municipalities in the cyberspace. So that's an example of the kind of programming that we might do.
Thank you, Angela. Let's talk a little bit about the skills gap at a broad level, the skills gap in technology, before getting specifically into cybersecurity. We hear about the skills gap all the time, and of course, Canada's not immune to that. It's a global problem.
Right.
And what is TechNation doing? What sort of initiatives are you leading or engaged in as a partner that are aimed at addressing the skills gap in technology today?
So I say there's a number of things that we're doing, Heather, and maybe if I kind of synthesize it into a couple of things, focusing on people and talent and platforms and policy, if you will. So right now we've been working very closely with the Government Canada in terms of driving the programming that support co-ops and interns, thousands of them. In fact, in the last few years, we're probably going to be placing over 30,000 co-ops and interns into tech positions across any industry sector, but roles that are specifically technology oriented. And the whole purpose of that program is to introduce, educate, and create that readiness for co-ops and interns coming out of university to be tech friendly or tech ready, if you will. Really important program just to increase that readiness. And the readiness piece, both in the tech sector, but as well as cyber, is an issue in itself. We do a lot of post-secondary training, but you can't necessarily have people tech ready to go into positions coming right out of school. There's this real need for workplace integrated learning. That's another area that we also support in the sector and work specifically with our industry partners in facilitating and enabling workplace integrated learning programs. I'm a big fan of those because I think, and I mentioned this to you in the past, Heather, I'm an ex-military leader. We came out of university and went into the military, but the only way we were able to close a gap between coming and becoming an officer in a specific skilled area was to do on-job training and workplace integrated learning. So I'm a big fan of that. Those are a couple of examples. Another thing that we've done, Heather, is developed with one of our brilliant AI, a labor market intelligence, quantum labor analytics company called Skyhive. We've developed a platform called Career Finder. This can be used by educators, by employers, by job seekers. If you and I were to click on it today, it gives you real-time data on cyber roles, for instance, and you can dive into those positions. They may be senior, they may be junior. And on that platform, you can find where the demand is across Canada for positions, what the specific skills are in those roles, really becoming a skills-based view or society is how we can accelerate our talent as well. So understanding the emerging skills in cyber, the diminishing skills, and if you're a job seeker, okay, what am I missing and what's my career pathway to get to that specific job? So there's a number of different avenues or programs that we're supporting to really work on this acceleration and addressing the skills gaps.
How can we get the word out about Career Finder? Because it's pretty new. It launched only within the past couple of years, I want to say.
That's right.
And I know that there are a lot of Canadians out there that some of my friends included who don't know that it exists yet. So what can we do to get the word out?
Well, one thing, so we've done a huge marketing campaign around the Career Finder, targeted mostly, I would say, at the co-ops and interns, driving the job seekers to the platform to connect them to the roles that we're bringing to the table for industry. In terms of industry, getting the word out to business, because that's the other great user of this potential platform. I think programs like this are perfect. We can actually, after this program, I'm going to link to your LinkedIn and put in the Career Finder in there, because you're right, it's a phenomenal tool. I push that Career Finder tool through our industry association. But I think the key maybe perhaps is to connect more with the human resources leaders as well in the sectors and working across some of the larger clusters of industries out there like NGen that represents advanced manufacturing. So thank you for asking this, because you've actually just brought to the table something that we need to continue to do, which is get the word out there with this platform and the information that's available on it.
Great, thank you. So now let's kind of narrow down to the topic of cybersecurity a little bit, because we know while there's a talent shortage in tech as a whole, in cybersecurity we have a really big problem filling open positions. We often hear about the 3.5 million number of open positions around the world at any given time. What that means here in Canada is roughly 85,000 open positions, last I heard, on any given day. Is that number ringing true with you as well?
Well, yeah. If we were to click into the Career Finder right now, I went on there a couple of days ago. We were at 76,000. 10 days ago at 85,000. It goes up and down. It's live. It's real time. So you're absolutely right. Those positions as well are every corner of the nation, which is really interesting, because you can hone right into, gee, I want to work in Prince Rupert in cyber. Oh, look, there are 5 jobs there, and here's what they're looking for. So yeah, you're right. We have a big gap in terms of the demand versus the talent that's available.
So what can we do, or what do we need to do as Canadians to try and address the cybersecurity skills gap here at home specifically? Mm-hmm. Are there actions that we can take, whether it's government, industry, or academia?
So to respond, sorry, I'm just removing my cat from our our discussion here. They don't bark, which is a good thing. So honestly, I think that to address and accelerate the skills gap, it has to be multi-sector. It has to be government, industry, and academic led. I don't think any one of the sectors can solve this problem alone. The government right now, we just went through submitting a proposal. So the government is taking this on seriously and investing money in the cyber sector. We just responded to a proposal for $250 million. And the gist underneath all of this was, as an organization, pulling together an ecosystem in Canada to connect pipelines of talent, everything from, these were not co-ops or students. This was immigrants, this was veterans, this was minorities, this was, you name it. There was no talent pipeline to be untouched in the potential here that needed to be upskilled and reskilled, as well as connecting industry partners, so the potential employers, and more importantly, any of the accelerators, the talent accelerators out there. They can be nonprofit organizations. There's examples out there like our university partnerships with industry partnerships as well, where industry will invest into Ryerson, for instance, and create the phenomenal Ryerson Cybersecurity Catalyst or the Future Skills Center at Ryerson. There are nonprofit schools out there like Willis College, or for-profit companies like Pluralsight, Desire to Learn, you name it. So all of these partners are critical, I think, in coming together and creating a streamlined process between, or platform really, between the talent and accelerating that talent, offering workplace integrated learning in the industry so that they're job ready. So all that to say, Heather, it's not a simple solution. It's a national response that's required, and a national call to action, if you will. And many partners will play an important part in filling some of these gaps.
Are there programs out there now that are geared towards specific groups? Some that you mentioned already, such as veterans or new Canadians, women, other visible minorities, et cetera. Are there any specific programs you could talk about here today that our audience might be interested in?
Absolutely. So Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst has a rapid acceleration program. I believe it can span from 6 weeks to more than that, targeted underrepresented groups, people getting back into the workforce, women getting back into the workforce. Willis College focused, and I worked closely with them a number of years ago, so they focus on cybersecurity training, but veteran specific. What a great target audience to go to, these well-trained ex-military people, tons of leadership skill coming in through a cybersecurity program and able to graduate and offer a nice complex mix of technical and leadership talent. So there are a number of programs out there. Future Skills Center, the ADAPT program as well, offered through the Diversity Institute, focuses on diverse groups, underrepresented groups, minority groups, in terms of upskilling, reskilling. And then another one I'll mention is Elevate, which is another, we partner with all of these organizations, by the way, and Elevate was created by for the region of Toronto, but is expanding, also focused on BIPOC. So, and they offer cybersecurity training as well. So there's and I hate to think right now, I'm probably omitting some organizations out there, but a number of phenomenal organizations. One other thing I'll mention to you that we do, and we partner with, Heather, is a group called Talent Beyond Boundaries. They represent displaced persons around the world. So think of the Ukraine right now, and 6 million refugees. Many of those people have technical backgrounds or all sorts of skills, professional skills. So they actually create a global database, if you will, of displaced persons, and are working with organizations like ours, working with IRCC, Immigration Canada, and connecting the dots between the immigration talent coming into our nation and working with organizations like ours to get them placed. So there are a number of, like I say, talent pipelines that are organizations we tap into to support connecting those seeking employment and the many companies out there that are members of ours that we're trying to support in terms of filling those gaps.
There are a couple of others that come to my mind that I've had some personal involvement with, through particularly in the form of mentoring, and those are Access Employment for new Canadians. They too have an accelerated cybersecurity training program, much like Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst. but as I said, geared towards newcomers. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other is pellet skills
Yeah, right.
as well.
See, that's one that I forgot to mention. Yeah.
So that made me think, going back to Career Finder, does Career Finder in any way connect people to these programs, these potential programs?
No, Career Finder does not. Right now, it's a platform of information. So it doesn't necessarily direct people to some of these inbound talent pipelines. Is that what you mean? We palette, how it works right now, Heather, is palette, Rogers, Cybersecure, Future Skills push their talent as they graduate and LVO. Just swallowed water backwards. Give me 2 seconds. This has never happened to me before doing a podcast, by the way.
So that's okay. We're live. We're live.
I know we're live. So we can't even blank this out. So these organizations use that Career Finder for their talent as they graduate.
I guess I was thinking more of on the front end for individuals who are looking to find cybersecurity or other technology related training programs. Is there somewhere they can go to find programs across Canada? Is there a consolidated place where they can?
We do provide career pathways through this platform, which will connect you to offerings out there, training as you will, that you might be missing to get from A to B. So there is a career pathway capability on the Career Finder, and that's really in line with what you're talking about. Through that proposal I was telling you about that we recently did as well, whether we succeed or not, there's a huge opportunity through this ISED offering from the government to create career pathways which connect the dots from somebody looking at a cyber career, what they have now in terms of skills, what kind of training is out there, and then what kind of jobs are. So that's definitely a direction that we believe is really, really critical, connecting those dots. And we're certainly, as an organization, looking at providing that with some of our partners.
Thank you. That really does answer my question. And just to kind of give the audience some background as to why I poked at that, it's because I often get asked questions like, how do I get into cybersecurity? It's so overwhelming, and there's because there are cybersecurity applies, as you said, across all sectors, and yet there's this misconception that cybersecurity is really an industry of it in and of itself, and it isn't. And then and on top of that, there's this misconception that you have to be deeply technical. And that you have to, for example, have a computer science degree or some such degree, and it's just not true. And so, I think that the more we can do to help people find their
pathway,
then that's a big step.
I think you're bringing up a really good point as well. And this is where the Career Finder is very helpful. So if you clicked on a specific job, and I'm going to emphasize, if you and I and people creating education awareness around cyber can emphasize, it's about the skills, not the word of cyber. There's many, many skills layered into the careers in cyber. So the Career Finder, when you click on roles, you can see specific skills in there that you may already have through some of your technology background, and then other skills that you'll need to develop specifically in the security space. So it's important that we, I think, understand the skills-based approach, because it allows a more open-minded opportunity to bring in all kinds of talent. The other thing that I read a lot about, and in speaking with our members who are looking for more experienced cyber potential employees, if you will, is that the skills that are missing aren't necessarily the tech skills, but the leadership skills, adaptability, project management, some of those things that are more offer that or balance out that business decision-making capability as you move up through the career pathway. So it's important that we look at cyber as broken down into dozens and dozens of specific skill areas, and our potential or future talent could have already be on a pathway to being able to fulfill some aspects of that.
Yep, agreed. And sometimes there's an element also of helping individuals who do have experience in the workforce see how they can translate their existing skills into cybersecurity related skills or experience, right?
Right.
Sometimes
That's
it's
right.
hard for them to see that they actually have related experience.
Right. And that's exactly what career pathways can help you do, is see what you have now and what you need to head in a certain direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we actually have a question from our audience. It is, are you considering to also support entrepreneurship in cybersecurity?
Are we? We
Yeah,
already
as
do that. Yeah. We actually run programs for entrepreneurs as well. There are a number of different programs out there to facilitate connecting people through their pathways to an end goal. And so the entrepreneurial direction was one of the focuses we had through our AI CSI. We had an AI cybersecurity initiative that we did in partnership with the government as well. And that's really important. So definitely it's a piece and aspect of the offerings that we've had.
And where can people find out more information about that, Angela?
Well, you can, I would suggest that you connect with a future workforce development team, a phenomenal team of people, and they have placement leaders and program leaders, a couple of directors there who've been leading these programs for a number of years. You connect with them through our website or send me an email, and I'll be able to connect you. There's a lot of information on our website about all of this discussion that we're having, Heather, in terms of the career finder, the career pathways, the programs that we offer. We offer job fairs and programs specifically for underrepresented groups or new immigrants, you name it. We kind of cover the gamut.
And the website is technation.ca?
technationcanada.ca.
technationcanada.ca. Okay, you heard it here, people. technationcanada.ca.
Yeah.
That's where you
And
want to go.
That's right. And if you typed in Career Finder as well, that would connect you to technationcanada.ca.
Perfect.
And it's on there. Yeah. I think it just came up as technation.ca in your
chat.
It
did. Yes.
I'll just add
so that's okay. Our audience cannot see that, Angela. So so let's see. What haven't we covered that I wanted to talk about today? I guess where I'd really like to go now is to a sort of call to action for our listeners. We talked a bit about what we need to do here in Canada to address the skills gap, but let's kind of take it down to an individual level. If I'm an experienced professional working in industry, or I'm in government, or I'm in academia, what can I do to to do my part to help address the skills gap in Canada?
Mm-hmm. Well, so I think if we're looking at the individual, and I think about the largest employers in Canada are small, medium enterprises. So most of us are working for small, medium enterprises. I think having that savvy, that awareness to the threat of cybersecurity, ransomware, the hacking that's going on, and to make that as simple as I can, Heather, my organization, we're a tech association. Many of my employees are not technology professionals. They lead events and programs and drive programming. We've all had to implement education within our organization on our role, exactly like what you're saying. How do we ensure that we have some kind of awareness? How do I understand now or learn to pay attention to the text coming in on my phone that look like, oh gosh, that's a DHL package coming for me, except when I click on it, that's not a DHL logo, or it's not making sense. Right down to that, I really think, and we always hear that saying that the biggest risk or threat for hacking and cyber is between the person and the screen. It's the IoT, whoever's at the end of the IoT device chain, basically, with our phones. I was training my mother the other day, who's in her 80s, that as we're trying to set up her Apple ID for the 5th time because she keeps forgetting her password, we had to go through multi-factor authentication. Like, it took over half an hour. And I was saying to her, this is a good thing, Mom, that we're doing this. So I think anybody that has some kind of awareness, pay attention. Is your organization and is your team taking or getting the training that you need? Are we staying updated on the threat as it continues to rapidly escalate in the most smallest way in our lives? I think that's what we have to do as individuals, is help our companies and our teams and our organizations do what they need to do. And our whole team, my HR director stepped up because we have an outsourced IT service provider, and we don't have an IT director on our team. So different people in the organization have been stepping up to take on this challenge. So I hope that helps, Heather. I'm trying to break it down to what's the smallest piece in Canada. It's most of our employment and the space where we work at, and how do we help within our own job. And
it does, and I thank you for bringing that up, because what you're really getting at is that the skills gap goes far beyond putting bums in seats to fill the 75,000 or 85,000 or 3.5 million open cyber positions. It's about building greater awareness amongst people of all ages, young to old, across the country, and beyond our borders. And we who are experienced in the field, I believe, have a responsibility to do just what you described, to help educate our friends and our family, and I think in particular people who are vulnerable. Sorry, struggling with my words. People who are vulnerable, such as seniors, right? And
well,
who didn't necessarily grow up with the technology that we have today. And I in fact, I recently talked about this at the Canadian Women in Cybersecurity Conference earlier this month. Had a fireside chat with a couple of my friends, Vivian Soon and Vanessa Henry, and we talked about the myth of the human firewall, and the fact that, as you described, that really the weakest link is the human, and we can't expect humans to be a human firewall. And we did get into this discussion about the fact that we need to educate people of all ages. So
absolutely.
thank you.
And I bet you all of our audience listening right now, all of us can think of someone that's been hacked on their phone. And I heard a story from an 84-year-old woman, a good friend of mine in the States, a couple of months ago, and they were calling her and feigning to be some relative, and they needed access to something. And she was saying to me, I actually inside instinctively knew this didn't make sense, but somehow I did what he said. And she was completely vulnerable and lost money because of it. So we have that issue with educating seniors or even children, because every child now has a device in their hand. But then when we think about the workplace, where you and I were just talking, I was on a conference a couple of months ago and heard that it takes over 200 days for a small, medium enterprise to even be aware of a threat that they've been hacked. Think how much damage can happen in that time. And we're dealing in Canada with the average of several $1 million cost for every company. So the impact of educating our smaller companies or our teams can be huge when you think of the economic impact that 99% of our gross domestic product comes from small, medium enterprises. That's a huge threat for Canada if we don't have education and awareness down to our smallest employment level.
You're right, and with small to medium businesses, often, as you alluded to earlier, they don't necessarily have people in place who are dedicated
They
to
absolutely don't. And
keeping
one
the
of
the company safe, right?
Absolutely. And when I think of, and I think of the task force that we have going on in Tech Nation right now, the cyber task force that you're on, and we talk about where can we influence. One of the areas that comes up a lot is both the small, medium enterprises not having the resources as well as smaller municipalities. Is there some way where Canada needs to create some central shared services for municipalities or small medium enterprises where they can tap into some cyber expertise? I don't know if that's the right answer yet, but we sure have to get over this hurdle fast because our economy will be impacted. There's no question if we don't enable and facilitate these smaller organizations.
Right. So, speaking of the task force, let's end with this question. If there are people out there listening today or in the future listening to the replay who would like to get involved with Tech Nation, whether that be on one of your task forces or through volunteering in some other way, how can they do that?
So primarily, our organization's member driven. So being a member of Tech Nation is usually where everything starts. We have, if you go onto our website, technationcanada.ca, we have a vice president of membership who you could reach out to, Jeff Hanlon. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to any of our directors. We're a pretty open and accessible team, and everybody knows everybody. There's a lot of options on there in terms of ways to get involved with our organization, and the Cyber Task Force is one of them. The Career Ready programming is another if you're interested in talent. Right now, as we speak, we're placing co-ops and students into small, medium enterprises across the country. So if anybody out there is interested in that, we can facilitate that as well. So lots of opportunity. And as well, as you mentioned, Heather, some focuses that we have with cyber.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angela. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I kind of am taking away a few things here. One is that, like me, you agree and feel strongly that government, industry, and academia have to come together to address the problem. I picked up on something you said early on. You talked about people, platforms, and policy. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to remember those as the three P's. And don't be
Yeah,
surprised if you hear me talking about the three P's in the future, because I like that.
I'm flattered.
It sums things up very nicely. I love what TechNation is doing to in the way of programming for co-ops and interns, and I think that's going to be a huge benefit to small and medium business here in Canada, not just to the individuals that are being placed. And then thank you for telling everybody how to find Career Finder
Mm.
and describing all of the benefits. And if I had a crystal ball, I would say we're probably going to see future enhancements to Career Finder.
Yes,
I know that there have been enhancements since it was first launched, so I think
that's
it's
great.
I think it's really evolving. And I personally am going to go find out more about talent. Did you call it Talent Beyond Borders? Is that what?
Yes, yeah, I did. And we bring it up all the time at Tech Nation. Phenomenal organization, Heather. And we could connect the dots for you there too.
It's the name is intriguing, and I have not heard of it before until you mentioned it to me recently, and I'd like to learn more about it. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
helping me to learn something new today, and thank you for sharing all of your expertise and your knowledge and your passion with our audience today.
Thank you. This is a good discussion, and you've just reminded me as well. I have a takeaway to get out there and help industry have greater awareness around the Career Finder and some of those tools and platforms that we're offering. So thanks for that.
And you can count on me to do my part as well.
Thanks.
Thanks again, Angela, and thank you to CyberX for hosting this series on cyberexchange.ca. And to our audience, thank you for joining us today. And stay tuned for episode 5 of Mind the Gap. Have a great day, everyone.